The human race had always been driven by an unyielding thirst for exploration, knowledge, and progress. Their quest for the unknown led them to the stars, and it was in the far reaches of the galaxy that humanity first made contact with the alien empires that ruled vast stretches of space. The alien civilizations, some ancient and advanced beyond human comprehension, viewed humanity as little more than an inconsequential species, a fleeting blip in the grand tapestry of the cosmos. The first encounter took place at the edges of the Sadran Expanse, a region of space known for its dense nebulae and interstellar turbulence. A human exploratory fleet, the Icarus expedition, was venturing into uncharted territory when they stumbled upon a massive alien warship. The craft was unlike anything the humans had ever seen, its sleek, organic design pulsing with an eerie, blue glow. It was the flagship of the Elker Empire, an ancient and ruthless species known for their dominance in the galaxy. The Elker had conquered hundreds of worlds, bending them to their will through force and subjugation. Commander Helena Sykes, the leader of the Icarus expedition, knew the stakes. Humanity's fate was on the line. A single wrong move could lead to the annihilation of her crew and the complete obliteration of any hopes for a future among the stars. The Elker captain, a towering figure with shimmering black skin and multiple eyes, greeted the humans with disdain. "We are the Elker," the captain's voice boomed across the comms, its cold and alien tone sending shivers down the spines of the human officers. "Your species is beneath us. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths swift." Helena, however, refused to back down. She wasn't about to let her people cower before an empire that saw them as nothing more than prey. Despite the overwhelming power of the Elker, humanity's strength was in their unity, adaptability, and determination. The Icarus had been outfitted with the latest human technology, including experimental weaponry designed to push the boundaries of what was possible. But more importantly, the humans had something that no alien empire could anticipate, their indomitable spirit. "We are humanity," Helena responded with unwavering resolve. "We do not bow to threats. We forge our own destiny." A tense silence followed, broken only by the hum of the Icarus engines. The Elker captain studied the humans for a long moment, intrigued by their audacity. Most lesser species would have submitted immediately, but these humans, these warriors, had a fire within them that was undeniable. With a flick of his mandibles, the Elker captain ordered his fleet to fire. The Elker ships unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, raining down destruction upon the human vessels. The humans fought back with everything they had, utilizing every advantage at their disposal. The Icarus responded with precise strikes, sending ripples of energy through the Elker's shields. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, but humanity's fighting spirit held strong. Commander Sykes led her crew with calculated precision, dodging the Elker's overwhelming firepower while striking back with devastating efficiency. In the chaos of the skirmish, the humans managed to land a critical blow to the Elker flagship, sending it spiraling into a nearby asteroid field. It was a small victory, but one that sent a message to the entire galaxy: humanity would not be so easily defeated. As the battle ended and the remnants of the Elker fleet retreated, Commander Sykes stood at the bridge, breathing heavily, her heart still pounding from the fight. Her crew had held their ground. The human warriors had earned their place among the stars. But this was only the beginning. The Icarus expedition had sent a shockwave through the galaxy, a signal that humanity was no longer content with being passive observers. The humans had tasted the thrill of the fight, and they would not rest until they had secured their future among the stars, no matter the cost. The alien empires would learn to fear humanity's strength, for the humans would boldly defy their dominance, forging a path to a new era, an era where humanity would not just survive, but thrive. The first battle had been won, but the war was just beginning. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only just begun to awaken. The aftermath of the skirmish with the Elker was a turning point for humanity. News of their victory spread quickly, carried on the networks of the human colonies across the galaxy. In the capital of the United Earth Alliance, on Earth itself, the event sparked something inside the hearts of humanity. It wasn't just a moment of military triumph, it was a declaration. Humans were not just explorers, not just survivors, they were warriors. Commander Helena Sykes became a hero, her name synonymous with defiance. But despite the celebratory accolades and media attention, she remained focused. She knew that the Elker were only the first empire to notice humanity's potential for resistance. In the coming months, human forces would face a wave of retaliation, not just from the Elker, but from every empire that considered them a threat. It was in the war room of the United Earth Alliance's headquarters that Helena sat with her council of military advisors. Her eyes were narrowed as the holographic map of the galaxy shimmered before her. The Elker fleet, despite its retreat, was still far more powerful than any single human force. And worse, the alien empire had allies, ruthless species who had long dominated their respective sectors of the galaxy. The Elker are just the beginning, Helena said, her voice steady but filled with the weight of what was to come. The Varkov will come next. Then the Klintari. The Sauron Dominion is already on the move, and they have an armada far larger than anything we've seen. General Marcus, the Alliance's chief of defense, stood by her side, eyes sharp with determination. We cannot face them one at a time. We need to consolidate our forces, form alliances, and increase our fleet's capabilities. The humans have only one advantage, our unpredictability. Agreed, Helena said. But we need more than just unpredictability. We need training, tactics, and a unified effort. Every colony needs to be ready. Every soldier, every ship must be battle-ready. The call to arms was issued immediately. Within weeks, human colonies began preparing for what was now inevitable, a war that would stretch across the stars. The Alliance worked quickly to bolster its fleet and technology. Massive new ships, the likes of which the galaxy had never seen, were constructed. Each vessel was designed with the lessons learned from the first battle. Weapons, shields, and engines were all enhanced to give humanity an edge against their alien adversaries. Training facilities were established across the colonies. Veteran fighters from the Icarus expedition traveled from planet to planet, teaching new recruits the methods that had allowed them to stand their ground against superior alien forces. But it wasn't just about weapons and tactics, it was about instilling the unbreakable spirit of humanity. It was about making every soldier, engineer, and diplomat believe that they were part of something much larger than themselves. But even as the military machine was gearing up for war, something else was happening. Something that no alien empire could have predicted. Humanity's resolve was not just forged through force, it was a fire that burned in the hearts of individuals, from every walk of life. Across the galaxy, civilians rallied. Farmers, scientists, traders, doctors, all stood side by side with the soldiers. The galaxy was vast, but the human will was greater. Meanwhile, a clandestine operation was underway. A human intelligence network had been quietly building since the Elker first attacked, sending spies into alien empires and gathering vital intelligence on enemy fleets, weaknesses, and diplomatic strategies. The humans were learning their enemies' secrets, secrets that would soon become weapons in their hands. Helena knew that the battle ahead would not just be fought with ships and weapons. It would be fought with strategy, with alliances, and with the hearts and minds of the galaxy's inhabitants. If humanity was to survive, they would need to convince other species to rise up against the empires that sought to control them. The human cause was more than a war for survival, it was a fight for freedom, for self-determination. A message was sent out to every corner of the galaxy. Join us, or be conquered. Humanity stands against tyranny, and together, we can break the chains that bind us all. The galaxy was on the edge of a new era. Empires trembled at the thought of what was to come. And in the heart of every human, the fire of defiance burned brighter than ever. The human warriors were ready. And with them, an army of species who had long suffered under the boot of the alien empires would rise. But as the battle for the future of the stars began, one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity's call to arms did not fall on deaf ears. Across the galaxy, the oppressed began to stir. Alien species that had long been under the thumb of tyrannical empires found themselves suddenly emboldened by the humans' defiance. The Elker, the Varkov, and the Sauron Dominion had maintained their control through fear and subjugation, but they had never considered that the galaxy's weaker races might one day rise up against them, especially not with the audacity of humans leading the charge. Within months of Commander Helena Sykes' speech, whispers of rebellion echoed in the corridors of every alien power. The humans had inspired something in the galaxy's diverse species: hope. Hope that a different future was possible, a future where freedom was not an illusion, but a reality. It wasn't long before the first of these species made contact. A desperate message arrived from the Zorith, nomadic species known for their fleet of scavenger ships, who had suffered for centuries under the oppressive rule of the Varkov. They had no formal army, only a ragtag group of warriors, but they were willing to risk everything for a chance at freedom. Helena stood on the bridge of the Icarus, looking at the holographic display of the incoming message. A Zorith representative appeared on the screen, a small, wiry creature with blue-tinted skin and wide, luminous eyes. The desperation in its voice was palpable. "We've heard your words, humans," the Zorith leader said. "The Varkov have stolen our worlds, enslaved our people, and crushed our will. But we will fight with you. You have shown us that resistance is possible." Helena's eyes narrowed as she listened. This wasn't just a plea for help, it was an opportunity. "We'll send you the resources you need," she responded firmly. "But we need more than your warriors. We need intelligence, technology, anything you can offer to help us prepare for the Varkov." The Zorith nodded. "We will give you everything we have. Together, we will strike back." And strike back they did. The Zorith warriors, though few in number, were expert pilots and guerrilla fighters. They used their scavenged ships and technology to attack Varkov supply lines, throwing the Empire's operations into chaos. Their guerrilla tactics sowed fear and confusion within the Varkov ranks, making it clear that they had underestimated humanity and their allies. But the Zorith were not alone in their awakening. Soon after, representatives from the Karate, a race of insectoid creatures known for their agility and stealth, reached out to the humans. The Karate had been hunted by the Sauron Dominion for generations, their homeworld long reduced to ruins under their oppressors. Like the Zorith, they had no formal fleet, but they were masters of sabotage and subterfuge. They were ready to fight alongside humanity and take the war to the heart of the Sauron Empire. With each new ally, the human cause grew stronger. Soon, it became clear that the galaxy was no longer a place where empires could reign unchallenged. A coalition was forming, a new alliance of species that sought to overthrow the old order and create a future where they could all thrive. In the heart of the United Earth Alliance, Helena stood in front of a vast map, now crowded with the flags of multiple species. The Zorith, Karate, and several smaller races had all pledged their support, their ships now joining the growing fleet of human vessels. It was a symbol of hope, hope that had once seemed impossible but now burned brightly across the stars. "We are not just fighting for survival anymore," Helena said to her council. "We are fighting for a new galaxy, one where freedom, justice, and self-determination are the rule, not the exception." General Marcus, now a trusted ally of the Zorith and Karate leaders, nodded gravely. "We've already seen what the Elkar are capable of. And they're just the beginning. But with our new allies, we might just have a chance to tip the scales." Helena's mind raced as she studied the map. The battle ahead would be unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The alien empires were vast and powerful, but their greatest weakness had always been their arrogance. They believed their control was unchallenged, that no one would dare rise up against them. But they had underestimated the power of unity, and the burning spirit of the human warriors who had brought the galaxy's oppressed races together. The newly formed coalition began to plan their first joint strike. Their target, the Varkov capital world of Korin, a heavily fortified planet at the heart of the Empire. It would be the ultimate test of their resolve, and the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history. The first wave of ships, human, Zorith, Karate, and others, began their journey toward Korin. The galaxy watched in silence, holding its breath. For the first time in centuries, the alien empires felt something they had long forgotten: fear. The warriors of humanity and their allies were coming for them. and they would not stop until the old order was shattered, and a new dawn had risen for all. The assault on Korin, the heavily fortified capital world of the Varkov Empire, was to be a turning point in the war. The newly formed coalition, composed of humans, Zoroth, Karate, and other allies, was ready for their first major strike. They had already made small victories, but nothing on the scale of Korin. It was a symbol of Varkov power, and its fall would send a shockwave through the galaxy. Commander Helena Sykes stood on the bridge of the Icarus, overseeing the final preparations. Her eyes were fixed on the holographic map of Korin, a planet surrounded by multiple defense rings and an overwhelming fleet. The Varkov had fortified their capital to the extreme, but Helena had something they didn't: the element of surprise, the unity of a coalition with a single purpose, and a fierce determination to win. The plan was risky. The Varkov had set up a multi-layered defense grid that included orbital platforms, planetary shields, and a fleet of warships that far outnumbered their own. However, the coalition had studied the planet's defenses for months, discovering a weakness in the grid's power relay system, a potential opening for an attack that could disable the planetary shields long enough for their forces to land. Helena addressed her crew, her voice steady but filled with the tension of the moment. "This is our chance. We strike hard, we strike fast. We take Korin's heart, and we show the galaxy that the old empires can be broken. No hesitation. We do this together, or not at all." The fleet, a ragtag collection of human, Zoroth, and Karate ships, set off for Korin, their course plotted through the Varkov defenses. Each ship was equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had developed, from stealth cloaking devices to advanced EMP weaponry. The Zoroth ships, nimble and agile, would lead the charge, creating distractions and drawing fire, while the human vessels would coordinate the main strike. As they approached the outer reaches of Korin's defense zone, the first line of Varkov warships began to respond. The Varkov were aware of the coalition's arrival, but they weren't fully prepared for the coordinated assault that came their way. "Engage the cloaking devices," Helena ordered. "We'll move in close before they can get their long-range weapons on us." The Icarus and her fleet dropped below Korin's defensive radar, slipping through the dark expanse of space under the cover of stealth. The first few minutes were tense, as they crept closer to the planet's shield grid. The Zoroth ships darted ahead, drawing fire as they disabled a few of the outer defense platforms. Their fleet had more numbers, but the Zoroth's ability to strike fast and retreat kept the Varkov fleet guessing. "We've located the power relay," a voice from the engineering bay crackled over the comms. "The shield grid is vulnerable for a short window. We've got about 5 minutes before the Varkov react." Helena's heart raced. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to punch through the heart of the Varkov defense. "Time to go. All ships, target the relay," she commanded. The Icarus and the rest of the human fleet pushed forward, launching precision strikes on the Varkov defenses. The initial barrage disabled several of the planetary shield emitters, causing a ripple effect in the grid. Korin's once impenetrable shields flickered for a crucial few seconds, enough time for the coalition's assault to break through. But the Varkov were not blind to this vulnerability. As the shields faltered, they regrouped, launching a counteroffensive that targeted the heart of the coalition fleet. "Brace for impact," General Marcus shouted as alarms blared across the bridge. "We're not out of this yet." The Varkov warships unleashed a barrage of fire, taking down several of the Zoroth ships and damaging some human vessels. The Karate, known for their stealth and agility, darted through the enemy fire, launching surprise strikes on Varkov command ships. It was chaos, a swirling storm of plasma, energy blasts, and the shrill sounds of battle. In the midst of the chaos, Helena's tactical genius became clear. She coordinated every strike with precision, guiding her allies to hit key targets while avoiding traps set by the Varkov. The human fleet's adaptability and ingenuity outshone the Varkov's brute force, pushing the enemy to the brink of desperation. As the final few seconds of shield vulnerability approached, the Icarus and a handful of Zoroth ships made a daring run toward the planet's surface. The mission was clear: they had to disable Korin's central command center and send a message that would cripple the Varkov Empire's leadership. It was a do-or-die maneuver. The Zorith vessels led the charge, using their expert knowledge of the terrain to avoid anti-aircraft fire. The Icarus followed closely behind, with human fighters strafing enemy defenses. They reached the surface, and Helena and her team of elite soldiers were the first to make landfall. The ground shook as explosions erupted around them, but they pressed forward. The Varkov defenders were fierce, but they were no match for the firepower and resolve of the humans. "We're in," Helena radioed back to her fleet. "Target the command center. We're going to finish this." With a final push, the coalition soldiers stormed the Varkov command facility, setting charges at critical points. The battle on the surface was brutal, but the coalition's combined forces were unstoppable. The Varkov commanders were either captured or slain, and the central core was destroyed. As the command center collapsed in a firestorm of smoke and rubble, the Varkov's grip on Corin weakened. Their fleet was decimated, their command structure shattered. The planet's defense grid failed completely, and the remaining Varkov ships began retreating. Helena stood atop the wreckage of the Varkov command center, looking out over the chaos. The victory at Corin was hard-earned, but it was a victory nonetheless. The coalition had made a statement to the galaxy: humanity and its allies could defy the odds, topple empires, and seize their destiny. As the fleet gathered in orbit around the planet, Helena received a message from the Zorith leader, his voice crackling with pride. "Commander Sykes, we have done it. Corin is ours." Helena's voice was steady, but there was a fire behind her words. "No, this is just the beginning. The galaxy is waking up, and we're going to make sure it never falls back into the hands of the empires." The coalition had won its first major battle, and the message was clear: the human warriors who boldly defied alien empires had just secured a future among the stars. The victory at Corin was a monumental achievement, one that reverberated across the galaxy. In the heart of the Varkov Empire, the loss of their capital was a crushing blow, both symbolically and strategically. News of the coalition's success spread like wildfire, igniting hope in the hearts of oppressed species across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the people of the galaxy dared to believe that the reign of the old empires might finally be over. The victory, however, came at a cost. The coalition had lost ships, soldiers, and valuable resources. Though they had crippled the Varkov Empire's leadership, there was no mistaking that this war was far from over. The empires, wounded but not defeated, would rally their forces and come for the coalition with all the fury of a cornered animal. Back in the United Earth Alliance's war room, Commander Helena Sykes and her closest advisors gathered around a holographic map of the galaxy. The victory at Corin had thrown the Varkov into disarray, but the question was, what next? The Elkar were still a formidable force, and the Sauron Dominion, now fully aware of humanity's growing influence, had begun to mobilize their fleets. "We've hit them where it hurts," General Marcus said, his voice low with determination. "But we can't let our guard down. The Varkov will regroup quickly, and the Sauron, they'll be gunning for us next. We've got to stay one step ahead." Helena's fingers hovered over the map, tracing the movement of enemy fleets. "Our victory at Corin gave us momentum, but we need to strike while the iron's hot. We can't afford to sit back and wait for them to recover. We've shown them what we're capable of. Now, we take the fight to them." Her eyes hardened as she made her decision. "We push deeper into Varkov territory. We hit their remaining strongholds, cripple their industrial hubs, and disrupt their ability to regroup. We need to keep them on the back foot." Her team nodded in agreement. The plan was risky, but it was their best shot at preventing the Varkov from regrouping. They would need to rally their allies, the Zorith, Karate, and others, who had all proven their worth in the battle for Corin. The time had come to strike again. As the coalition fleet prepared for its next campaign, tensions were high. There was a growing sense of unity among the allied species, but there was also an undercurrent of fear. Humanity's warriors had proven themselves in battle, but the galaxy's remaining empires were not going to surrender quietly. The coalition would face even greater challenges ahead. Across the galaxy, messages of solidarity and hope were being sent by human diplomats, encouraging other oppressed species to join the cause. In the wake of Corin's fall, several previously neutral species, including the enigmatic and reclusive Saren, had begun to open communications. The Saren were an ancient race, known for their mastery of psychic abilities, and their neutrality had made them elusive allies for millennia. But now, they saw the human-led coalition as their chance to finally break free from the shackles of imperial domination. Helena's council grew ever larger as new species entered the fold, each one bringing its own unique strengths and technologies to the table. The tide was turning, and the coalition was becoming a force to be reckoned with. However, the coalition's growing strength didn't go unnoticed. The Sauron Dominion, with its ruthless reputation for crushing dissent, was the first to respond to the human challenge. The Sauron fleet, known for its massive dreadnoughts and unrelenting firepower, began making its way toward the coalition's border systems, threatening to obliterate everything in their path. Sauron warships, some of the largest and most devastating in the galaxy, began to appear in the outer reaches of human space. Their black-hulled vessels, bristling with weapons, were a chilling sight. The Sauron Empire was known for its shock tactics, striking hard and fast, and leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. "We knew this was coming," General Marcus said grimly, staring at the incoming fleet's trajectory. "The Sauron are notorious for their brutal tactics. If we don't meet them head-on, we risk losing everything we've fought for." Helena clenched her jaw. She had never been one to back down, and now was no different. "We won't give them the chance to break our lines. We'll hit them before they can even land a blow. We'll take the fight to their doorstep." The decision was made. The coalition would engage the Sauron directly, but they would do so with a strategy of attrition. The Sauron Empire's size and strength made a direct confrontation dangerous, but the human-led forces had become experts in guerrilla warfare, striking from unexpected angles and using superior intelligence to outmaneuver their opponents. Helena and her allies made the bold choice to strike at one of the Sauron Dominion's primary shipyards, an enormous facility where dreadnoughts and warships were built. If the coalition could cripple the Saren's ability to produce new ships, it would force the Empire to fight with what they had left. The gamble was high, but if they succeeded, the Sauron would be weakened for months, giving the coalition time to regroup and press forward. The mission was a success. Under the cover of darkness and stealth, the coalition forces infiltrated the Sauron shipyard and launched a precision strike that crippled the facility. The Sauron fleet, already stretched thin from previous battles, was unable to replace their lost ships, and their forces began to falter. In the aftermath of the strike, Helena stood aboard the Icarus, looking at the holographic map of the galaxy. The coalition had once again struck a decisive blow. But as the remnants of the Sauron fleet retreated into their strongholds, Helena knew this was not the end. The galaxy's old empires would not give up their dominance without a fight. But the tide had shifted, and the coalition had gained the upper hand. Now, more than ever, the warriors of humanity and their allies stood united. The rising tide of rebellion had begun, and the old empires would soon learn that they could not extinguish the fire of defiance that burned within the hearts of those who refused to be oppressed. Helena's eyes gleamed with determination. "We've taken a step toward victory," she said quietly to her crew. "But the war is far from over. The galaxy belongs to the free now, and we're going to make sure it stays that way." The Sauron Dominion had always been a symbol of unyielding power, a colossal empire that stretched across vast star systems, its iron grip suffocating everything in its path. Its warships, some of the largest in the galaxy, were feared by all who had encountered them. But now, they were retreating, and the once mighty empire was in disarray. The strike on the Sauron shipyard had been a turning point. The facility was crippled, and the Sauron fleet had suffered critical losses. For the first time in generations, the Dominion was on the defensive. But the question that hung over the galaxy was whether this would be the beginning of the end for the Sauron, or just a temporary setback. Commander Helena Sykes stood at the heart of the coalition's war effort, overseeing a strategy meeting on the bridge of the Icarus. The maps and intel reports painted a grim picture. The Sauron Dominion's remaining forces were regrouping at a fortified stronghold deep within their territory. This was their last bastion, the final line in their defense against the Coalition's unrelenting advance. "We've crippled their shipyard, and their fleet is stretched thin," General Marcus said, leaning over the tactical map. "But they're regrouping. If we don't hit them hard and fast, they'll consolidate their forces and become a threat again. We need to strike now, before they can recover." Helena studied the map carefully. The Sauron stronghold was located on a planet called Velos, a desolate world known for its harsh, unforgiving environment. The planet had been fortified over centuries, with massive planetary defense systems and a vast network of underground bunkers housing the remaining Sauron leadership. It would be a difficult fight, but it was the only way to end the war with the Dominion once and for all. "We hit Velos," Helena said decisively. "We strike at their heart. It's a high-risk operation, but we have to take them out now, while they're still reeling. If we wait, they'll rebuild, and the next battle will be even harder." The decision was made. The Coalition assembled its forces, a mixture of human, Zorith, Karate, and Saren ships, each bringing its own unique strength to the fight. The operation was not just a military assault, it was a chance to completely dismantle the Sauron Dominion's ability to project power. The fleet launched from their base of operations in the outer rim of the galaxy, heading toward Velos. It was a risky maneuver. The Saren's remaining fleet, though weakened, was still formidable, and Velos itself was heavily defended. The Coalition would need to be quick, precise, and relentless. As they neared the planet, the fleet encountered the full brunt of the Sauron defense. Massive defense platforms, asteroid-based weapon stations, and the remnants of the Sauron fleet formed a formidable barrier. The Sauron had clearly learned from their earlier defeat at the shipyard, and they weren't going to make the same mistake again. Helena's voice rang out on the comms. "All ships, engage the Sauron fleet. We break through their defenses, then move in to disable the planetary shield. Prepare for everything. This is it." The battle was nothing short of cataclysmic. Explosions rocked the blackness of space as the Coalition ships engaged the Sauron warships in a deadly dance. The Zorith and Karate vessels darted in and out of the fray, using their speed and agility to create chaos in the Sauron ranks. Meanwhile, the human ships focused on precision strikes, targeting the weak points in the Sauron defenses. For hours, the battle raged on, both sides exchanging blows. The Sauron fleet, though smaller and weaker, fought with the desperation of an empire on the brink of extinction. But the Coalition, united in their resolve, was relentless. One by one, the Sauron warships were disabled or destroyed, and the remaining defenses around Velos began to falter. Finally, after a grueling battle, the Coalition forces managed to break through the planetary defense network, allowing a small group of elite strike teams to land on Velos itself. These teams, composed of humans, Karate, and Saren, had one mission: to infiltrate the Sauron leadership bunkers, locate the Dominion's high command, and eliminate them. On the surface of Velos, the Coalition soldiers faced a harsh and barren landscape, the air thick with toxic dust. The Sauron had fortified their underground command centers, hidden beneath layers of rock and metal. It was a race against time. Every minute the command structure remained intact was another minute the Sauron could regroup and fight back. Helena's team was the first to breach the underground complex. Armed with cutting-edge technology and a fierce desire to end the war, they fought through Sauron defenses, striking fast and decisively. The underground bunkers were a maze of corridors, but the Coalition soldiers were prepared. They fought their way through Sauron soldiers and automated defenses, clearing each section as they moved deeper into the heart of the command center. Meanwhile, Helena's second-in-command, General Marcus, led a team to find and disable the central communications hub. With the Sauron leadership cut off from their forces, their ability to coordinate any further resistance would be nullified. At the heart of the bunker, the Sauron leaders, once regarded as untouchable, were found hiding in a fortified chamber. But they were no match for the Coalition's fury. One by one, the remaining Sauron commanders were captured or killed, their reign of terror coming to a swift and brutal end. With the Sauron High Command destroyed and their communication systems down, the Coalition had dealt a deathblow to the Dominion. Their fleet, shattered and disorganized, began to retreat into the depths of space, unable to recover from the crushing defeat. Helena stood over the wreckage of the Sauron leadership, breathing heavily but resolute. The war was not yet over, but the Sauron dominion, once the galaxy's most fearsome empire, was no more. The old guard had been toppled, and with it, the last true bastion of oppression in the galaxy had crumbled. As the coalition forces returned to their ships, their victory felt bittersweet. There would be no victory celebrations, not yet. The Elkar Empire still stood, and the Varkov, though wounded, were not yet finished. But Helena knew something the empires did not: the galaxy had changed. The people of the galaxy were no longer slaves to tyranny. The age of the old empires was over, and the future belonged to the brave, to those who had defied the odds and risen up. The human warriors and their allies had shattered the Sauron dominion. And now, they were preparing for the final push. The galaxy would never be the same. The Sauron dominion had crumbled, their leadership vanquished, their once formidable fleet scattered. The victory at Velos was not just a turning point in the war, it was the moment that truly marked the end of an era. The galaxy, long subjugated by imperial power, was finally free from the chains that had bound it for centuries. Humanity and their allies had done what many once thought impossible: they had shattered the greatest empires in the galaxy and secured a place among the stars. Commander Helena Sykes stood in the war room aboard the Icarus, watching as the final reports from the battle poured in. The Varkov were still reeling from the loss of Corin, and with the Sauron dominion broken, their ability to wage war was severely diminished. The Elkar, though still powerful, were now isolated, with no more empires to back them. The galaxy was in turmoil, yes, but it was a turmoil born of opportunity. "We've done it," General Marcus said, his voice heavy with the weight of their victory. "The old empires are no more." Helena nodded slowly, her eyes focused on the holographic map of the galaxy. The victory had come at great cost, but the coalition had not only broken the power of the old guard, they had inspired countless oppressed species to rise up and take their own destiny into their hands. The galaxy, once dominated by fear and oppression, was now a place where the dreams of the free could flourish. But Helena knew the work was far from over. While the major threats had been dealt with, there were still remnants of the old empires hiding in the shadows, plotting for a return to power. The galaxy was on the brink of a new era, but it needed stability. It needed leadership. And above all, it needed unity. The coalition had grown into a force to be reckoned with, but now came the most challenging part: ensuring that the alliances formed in the heat of battle would survive in the peace that followed. There were still old rivalries, cultural differences, and power struggles to navigate. But humanity and their allies had proven that when united, they could overcome anything. "Now we rebuild," Helena said, her voice firm. "We ensure that the mistakes of the past don't come back to haunt us. We forge a new future for the galaxy, one where no empire can rise again." The message was clear: this was not a time for celebration. The victories at Corin, Velos, and beyond had been hard-won, but they were just the beginning of the new era that would follow. The coalition would work to rebuild the shattered galaxy, helping former enemies turn into allies and forging a lasting peace. It was a monumental task, but one that Helena believed they could accomplish. As the Icarus prepared to return to the newly formed capital of the United Galactic Alliance, a new hope hung in the air. Representatives from the Zorith, Karati, Saren, and many other species gathered together, working to draft a new constitution for the galaxy, one that would ensure freedom, equality, and cooperation among all races. Humanity's role in the galaxy had shifted from that of conqueror to that of leader, mediator, and protector. And as Helena looked out across the fleet assembled in the skies above Velos, she saw not just the remnants of an old empire, but the birth of something far greater. The peace would not come easily. There would be those who resisted, those who sought to return to the old ways, who would never accept a galaxy where they no longer held power. But Helena and the coalition were ready. They had already defied the odds. They had already toppled empires. What was left to fear? "The galaxy belongs to the free," Helena said to her crew as they prepared to depart. "And we will make sure it stays that way." As the Icarus and the fleet of Allied ships made their way toward the heart of the new galaxy, a sense of awe filled the crew. They had done the impossible. They had forged an alliance that had defeated the greatest empires the galaxy had ever known. And now, they stood on the precipice of a new age. A new age, where humanity's warriors would not only survive, but thrive, among the stars. And so, with the fading echoes of battle behind them and the promise of a bright future ahead, the human-led coalition set its course toward the unknown, united in their resolve. They had secured their place among the stars, and with it, the future of the galaxy itself. The dawn of a new galaxy had arrived. And in this new era, humanity and its allies would shape the course of history, ensuring that the reign of tyranny was over, and that the galaxy would forever be a place where the brave, the free, and the united would shine.